Hello, this is your IMP training and these are your advanced settings. This is going to follow the intermediate lesson a little bit, especially setting up that dog and getting everything put together. And as you can see, we're working on blocking out a walk cycle. We'll add more details, and I'm going to show you how to block out the walk cycle, how to copy these so that you can animate different objects. And that'll be what we do for the advanced IMP training in animation. I recorded making this walk cycle first, so we're going to transition to that. Now, we could do a lot of different things with this. We could do a walk cycle, and that's where maybe instead of having all of these open and doing everything on one layer, we go ahead and make copies. Now, I made a bit of a mistake when I recorded this the first time. What I should do is once I get everything set up, everything rigged, because I might do different animations with the same setup, I should go ahead and name that maybe like rename Nora Bell Rig No Animation. And this other one, I would go ahead and rename what I did. So this would be maybe Nora Bell Ear Raise. That way, I know that this composition has the animation associated with it, and then this one doesn't. And then if I want to make a new animation, I can always just click this, copy paste. I have another composition that doesn't have any animation associated with it. And if I want to do something like a walk cycle, that's how I could do this. So I'll rename this to Nora Bell Walk Cycle. And so for a walk cycle, you may want to think about what are the first steps you would want that walk cycle to have. Maybe we want a little bit of a bounce. Do we want it to move across the screen? Or do we want the background to move, kind of that old Hanna-Barbera method, where the background moved and the character stayed still as it walked? And then start with that first master movement and add the rest. So for the body, we know that everything is linked for the body, so that's where we'd want to go ahead and start animating. Let's say we wanted it to move across the screen. We'll start by going ahead and clicking our position. We'll move that maybe over here. And we want to think, how long do we want this to run across the screen? Maybe it's like a 7-second animation. So we'll go ahead and check how that timing works. And I'm going to guess it's very slow. Now it's only showing the part we have highlighted here, so we can drag that all the way out. And let's go ahead. Now this might be entertaining if we add some more movement to it, but for right now it is a little slow. On the other hand, I always tell students it's easier to start by animating it slower and speed it up a little rather than speeding it up and then trying to slow it down, because then it looks like you're dropping a lot of frames. So we'll go ahead and keep this, and then we'll think about what else should we have here. Well, maybe this is a pretty hoppy dog. So maybe every 15 frames it'll go up and down. So we have it set here. So what I could do is, instead of like kind of torturing myself, I can go ahead and just set those keyframes where I know the 0 position is going to be. So I'll do every other frame. And could I do a repeating cycle? Absolutely. There are ways that you can copy your keyframes and do scripts. But I do find initially when you're learning, the repetition is key for them knowing it. Otherwise, they get it done quickly, but then they forget everything afterwards. If you're like, I hate that method, you can totally look up methods to copy it over or make it quicker. And then we'll go ahead and adjust that. So here, maybe I want it to go up in the air like that much. A little too low. And a lot of that, once again, is just getting the timing right initially. So I think that's probably where I want to be. I'm going to try, let's say 660 because it's an easier number to remember. And I'm going to go ahead and give myself 2 keyframes just to see if I like that flow a little better. Okay, I think I'm all right with that. So I'm going to go ahead and just 660 all of this. Now I shouldn't have to do this for everything because the other parts will be parented. So we're just kind of doing it the slow way so that you get the hang of seeing those lines and doing it here. And we're just going to set this kind of little jaunty walk cycle up. That's when you're like, well, couldn't we do a loop or have it run against a background to speed it up a little? And now you realize why places like Hanna-Barbera and all that wanted to get this done quicker did that, right? So a lot of animation is learning where you can cheat because it's very time consuming. Great, now that you've blocked out the walk cycle, we're going to add a secondary animation, just moving those little ears so that it looks like it has some motion to it. I know that we're also going to move the legs and get that walk cycle done, but if we just move the legs and nothing moved with the ears, it would still look like a pretty flat animation. So this should be fairly easy. What you can do is go to your rotation, turn it on, and when we actually, this is kind of weird, but when we go up, the ears would be down, and when we hit the ground, they would flop up. So this is actually where my rotation should be set to 0. So we'll add that keyframe. And then on this one, we'll go ahead and see how much we would move those ears up. And I'm going to do 2 of these just to test it because it's a little hard to see when we're off screen. So I put it at a negative 17. And we'll go ahead and check a negative 17 again here. There we go. And I think after this, we could just select and copy these 2 keyframes. And I know after blocking out those animations, it's probably super, you're like, why didn't we just do this before? But for the body, since everything was doing that basis, we actually had to get the positions correct. So boop, boop, boop. And there are scripts and commands you can do to just tell it to kind of have a repeating walk cycle again and again. But I think, once again, just for timing or testing or so that they have to watch it, I kind of like doing these manual setups. And that might be mean, but it's kind of how I find my students tend to remember things a little better. And we'll do the right ear now. So we'll go to rotation. Once again, knowing that at 0, that's where that should be set. And we had about a positive 17 here, so we'll set that keyframe. Get our positive 17. And since I'm pretty confident on this timing, I'll just go ahead and copy and paste that. Now, could you set this up as like a stationary loop and just have them do a GIF? Absolutely. And now, this little area where the dog's ears wiggle as it walks. Boop, boop, boop. But it's still kind of a boring walk cycle because the dog is not actually moving its legs. When a dog runs, it tends to put 2 of its legs together and then 2 of its legs together. And we already have that where we have the front leg together and the back leg together. So we can set those initial keyframes. So let's minimize these that we already have. Paw, paw, transform, transform. And actually, if you're like me, you may get confused if you have all of them open, so I tend to do 2 at a time. We can go through and get to our, I know it seems like position, but it's rotation. And that's our back paw. We can always just hit that eyeball to see where we are. Cool. So that should be this one. Great, these two go together. We'll set that rotation too. So I'm even just going to turn off these left paws for a minute, just so I can see everything a little better. And sorry, it only has 2 feet. It's all right, it'll be okay, we'll give them back in a minute. So we'll go our transform, rotate, and our transform, rotate. And now everything has a 0 position. This is where we'll keep this, and we'll go 15 frames up. Go to the right front leg, rotate it forward, and then on that paw, the associated paw, we'll rotate it the other way so it looks like it's doing a little step. And we'll do the same thing for the back paw. We'll go ahead and rotate the leg first because the leg is the parent object. So now we have that animation. Now that we have that last little keyframe we want, we're not even seeing it, it's off screen, but we could post that one here if we wanted, but we're not seeing it, it's not on screen. So I'm just going to set these 2. You can set these 2 as well. And then we'll go ahead and do the next 2 legs after you get all these copied. Now that I've animated, I've copied and pasted my keyframes, I'm going to go ahead and turn my legs back on. Okay, so it looks like my name's got flipped a little. It's all right. We'll go ahead and on this paw, this leg, this paw, this leg, looks like everything is linked at least. We'll go ahead and unlock the transforms. And once again, we're doing rotations. We're going to start by rotating the leg, then rotating the paw, and we'll do it just a little differently. I promise you'll like this better. So rotate the leg, not the position. We'll rotate the leg. So since this one's out, go ahead and tilt this one in a little. Rotate the leg, and then on my back leg, do the same thing. Rotate it in a little, so it has that kind of like doggy jaunt. And rotate again. There's my first keyframe. Now when this gets to the 0 position, we want these to be out. So my rotation at that point should be more like that. And my foot rotate more like that. On this one, go ahead and rotate the leg out. And then rotate that paw, not opacity, sorry. Rotate the paw forward. And now we've got a pretty good lineup. And there's my animation. So let's move them to 15. Let's also take this keyframe and add it back in. We can do a, hopefully, Control V, right? Copy. Cool. So let's see if these work now. Oh, no. Just this one. Alt, right click, and we're going to try loop, out. And let's see how that works. Hit Alt and right click, it'll make what's called an expression. We can do some basic programming in After Effects. So we'll do a loop, out. And what that'll do is cause the animation to loop. And now I don't have to copy and paste it and put my animation in there. The back foot's a little wonky, so I have to fix that one. Looks like my timing on that's a little off, but we have a walk cycle.